Now that we have a fully linked model available with us for 2017, we can basically project this data for the next 5 years and then try and build the valuation. So since all the formulae are in place, theoretically speaking, what we need to do is just copy and paste this entire set of data for the next 5 years, right? We can make changes as we go along, but all I need to do is if I do a Control C and Control V, theoretically this should stay in a balanced kind of a position. So I'm going to do this for 4 more years. I'm going to do the same with my P&L, where honestly I can just drag it for the next 4 years. I'm going to do the same with my balance sheet, where I'm going to basically copy and paste it for the next 4 years, right? And I'm going to do this with the capex schedule, where I'm going to take this entire set, Control C, Control V for the next 4 years, 2017 onwards. In fact, let's also do this bit in terms of increasing, and I'm going to copy and paste the numbers here as well. So we're going to plug in all these numbers for the next 5 years. We will ignore what the numbers read. That's okay. We have not yet debated what the metric should be. But at the end of these years, the balance sheet should stay balanced if we have done all the linkages and calculations correctly. So let's go to the balance sheet and check if that works. And yes, we find that the balance sheet balances because all the values are linked correctly. Values may not be correct, but they are linked correctly as we speak. So that data is available. Let's just increase these headers to 2021 to incorporate 5 years. Let's incorporate that on the assumption sheet. And we have data for the next 5 years that can get projected based on this. Now, the trick here is obviously to understand what numbers are to be put in these headers as we go along to be able to arrive at a correct valuation metric. So the trick is to now go and decode the assumptions as well, right? Now, when we decode the assumptions, we'll obviously need to read a little bit. We'll need to read from a few sources. We'll probably need to do a research on the variety of values. Prima facie, this looks like we are extremely conservative, because for a company that has been able to maintain margins anywhere between 20 and 30, 25 and 30%, we're expecting margins to go to 9%. That's a bit steep. That's possibly not going to happen. That's happening because of the function of the fact that your costs, biggest cost is increasing at 5% and your revenue is actually decreasing at 1%. Right? So in terms of your rupee dollar rate that's available here. So the sense is that possibly they should be able to extend or increase these revenues as well. So maybe if we put this number at 4% every year, then we might start seeing that margins go down, but they stabilize. They stabilize at a certain number. And that possibly looks like a slightly better profitability number over the next few years. That looks a more logical number in general in terms of what cash flows the company would be able to generate. That's my free cash flow to equity. That is the number that we are supposed to discount. That's the number, that's the cash flow that is going to get discounted. Now, in terms of the model building process, we will need, since this is a free cash flow to equity model, we will need a cost of equity calculation. Let's do that somewhere down. So let's again put in FCFE as a header here. I'm going to put this in again, and this is the number that is going to get discounted. We can find out a discount factor, right? So each of these numbers has to be divided by 1 plus r, 1 plus r to the power 2, 1 plus r to the power 3. So there are two things we have to find out: 1 plus r, 1 plus r to the power 2, and so on and so forth. And that's the first thing we have to find out as to what the cost of equity would be. So cost of equity in our calculation is important. Cost of equity would come using the CAPM model. And what is the CAPM model? That says cost of equity is risk-free rate plus beta into equity risk premium. Now, we know risk-free rate at this point of time would be about 6.5% as what the market suggests. We know that broadly equity risk premium would be about 8% for Indian markets. And because Infosys is an international firm, we may want to try and check whether 8% makes sense. 8% is for investing in equities in India. This is a company that is solely dependent on the US. So practically you could take the US premium and Indian premium and take half and half of that. What is the US premium? That's 5%. What is the Indian premium? That's 8%. Average of these two is going to be 6.5% again, right? So risk-free rate of 6.5, equity risk premium of something. You need to calculate the beta values. That data is not available for us as of now, but what we can do is we can assume that, let's say for the time being, this is an assumption, we have to put in the exact number. Cost of equity is risk-free rate plus beta into RM minus RF. Sorry, that's B23, and that comes as 13% under the calculations that we have just put in, right? Let's just do this. Now, obviously the beta number has to come in. This has to be checked and calculated. We'll do that in a subsequent section, but the beta number has to be checked, and that gives us the cost of equity, which basically would then tell us what is going to be the present value of this cash flow, right? But there is one small catch. And what is that catch? Is what is the date today versus what is the date that you have the number of years that are left to this cash flow. This cash flow is going to happen on 31st March 2017, right? If we discount this value to today, if we discount this value by 1 plus R, the value we will get is going to be 31st March 2016. But we are not on 31st March 2016. We are on another date. So we have to discount it by not 1 plus R to the power 1. But remember, we have a cash flow. The cash flow has to be discounted at 1 plus R to the power T. What is T? T is the time left to the cash flow. This cash flow occurs about 40 days down the line. So you have to find out the years left to cash flow, or let's put this as time left to cash flow in years, right? And what's the time left? We have to find out the date today. So you can plug in a date today as this, right? And that's let's say 22nd Feb. So plug in the date here. And as you do this calculation, all you need to do is find out what's the time left. Excel allows you to find out the difference between two dates as A minus B. That's the number of days left. 37 days left. Number of years left divided by 365. So we have 0.1 year left. The next cash flow will be exactly 1 year down the line, and so on and so forth. You have to discount by using these values as time t. 1 plus r to the power 0.1, 1 plus r to the power 0.1.1, 1 plus r to the power 2.1. That's because you want to discount it to today, right? That's the time left to the cash flow. These are the broader cash flow elements that we have found so far. This, remember, is the explicit period. So we will also need a terminal growth rate. And based on that terminal growth rate, there would be a terminal year cash flow. There would be a, let's copy this and put this as a terminal year cash flow, right? And that terminal year cash flow is going to get calculated with a formula that's going to depend on the free cash flow in the last year multiplied by 1 plus G divided by R minus G. We've again seen this calculation earlier. So that's this into 1 plus whatever is the terminal growth rate. That's here divided by whatever is my cost of equity minus this terminal growth rate. So far we have assumed the terminal growth rate to be 0. If I put in the number as 5%, we get a terminal year value as well. Correct? Now note that this terminal year value is in the year 2021. This is in the year 2021. So this has to be discounted at the same number of years to be able to arrive at what is going to be my final value. The present values that I calculate here are going to give me the equity value for this particular firm, Infosys, right? So based on the numbers that we have plugged in, based on our assumptions, that's how we will arrive at the equity value of Infosys. That's broadly the model. In terms of linkages of the model has been completed. We may want to do a little bit of check in terms of what are the broader assumptions we are going to put in. Based on that, we'll find the present values. We need to calculate the exact beta. Based on that, we'll get the cost of equity. We'll do some thought process in terms of what should be the discount or the terminal growth rate, and then finally arrive at what is going to be the equity value of this company. There are one or two minor adjustments with respect to things like other income, which we have not projected, and we'll discuss those as well when we try and build in our final discussion on the FCFE of Infosys. That's it in this particular video. Thank you.